Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pies Nation podcast, where the pies are, well, hot, I guess. The drinks are cold. I'm Nicholas Sacco, your host once again. This is episode 22 of season 7, or episode 195, if you are counting from the beginning. And everything that could go wrong did go wrong on Thursday night, with the Pies humiliated by the Hawks at the MCG, putting our spot in the top 4 and incredibly even the top 8 in jeopardy. Today we go through a therapy session, simple as that. We discuss the questions that still need to be answered from the loss to Hawthorn. We go through an overwhelming response from our fans on Ask Pies Nation. Well, I might have to read some out, but pretty incredible in terms of the amount we got from SpeakPie. We congratulate the VFLW side on the finals win, and we speak to our next guest crowd competition winner. Gee, it's going from bad to worse, but we always front up, even when things aren't going our way. And Marcus Callahan and Jack Dugan join me in the studio. Gents, it's a tough pill to swallow, but here we are.
Are we in the same season? Honestly, it just feels like a very, very different narrative forming, unfortunately, for the Pies in such a short space of time. We've been the beneficiaries of an incredible, I guess, two-thirds throughout the start of the season, and then going on another run through the middle, Jacko. But how much can change so quickly, and really, we are in free fall.
Yeah, it feels like we have been a part of 2 seasons, really, doesn't it? I mean, I think the feeling right now is that this just doesn't happen in modern footy, teams getting in the positions that we were in this season. And yeah, to sit here now having absolutely squandered it is really, really disappointing, Nico. Like often is the case, especially since Craig McRae's tenure. Before games, you kind of get lost in conversations about great wins and not so great days at the MCG. I feel like this one's going to stick in the memory for a long, long time as being a really, really disappointing one, and probably certainly under Craig McRae, probably the worst game of footy we've seen. Yeah,
that was the question I was going to ask, gents. Does it feel like that? It got through all 2021 areas in terms of some of the lack of effort we saw from the boys on Thursday?
Yeah, we just went to pieces in ways that we aren't used to seeing under Fly's reign, and there's always been that sense of bad day at the office here and there since Fly's been coaching, but I just can't remember such an incomplete performance where we really just lost it from the first quarter. And we know there's a big reason in why, or at least I think there's a big reason in why the boys dropped their heads so early, and we'll get to that. But the lack of response and the lack of effort and intent when we know that these warning signs have been on the radar recently, not being able to transfer the footy, not being able to look like a system that we so often preach. And yes, we had some personnel return, but that unfortunately, there's bigger problems at play, is what I'm trying to say. Right now, it doesn't feel like the team we have on the park is necessarily the best or the worst version by virtue of personnel, but it certainly feels like there's things going on that we might not be privy to as fans that explain more than just poor performance, because getting beaten by so much in possession, teams controlling it with their uncontested marks, there's a lot of big talking points to come out of this game, Nico, and I think we may only scratch the surface in the next hour, but hopefully we can provide the Pies Nation faithful a little bit of comfort by virtue of what we get into.
Therapy, that's what I said. That's what we're going to try and do for the next little bit, but we'll see how it goes. All right, pie that caught my eye. Gee, I don't think there's going to be many positive ones, but curious to see where you landed this time.
Yeah, well, I've gone with Howie, and it just kills me to have to say that he was the pie that caught my eye, because within the first minute of the game, unfortunately, he was being stretchered off, and I was really concerned it was going to be not just a concussion, but maybe some damage to the jaw or the face region. Fortunately, the club's confirmed that's not the case. I'm not sure what the prognosis is with regard to potential games missed beyond this week, but gee whiz, he's the guy that I reckon is almost as important as a Nick Dacos or a Jamie Elliott. Honestly, he just brings so much leadership and organisation to the defensive unit, as we've talked about. He's dearly loved by the playing group, and I just think that him playing against the Crows this week, even if we had have lost the game just gone, gives me a really different feel going into this podcast. But knowing that Howie's not going to be out there once again after having a few setbacks this season, and then within the first minute it just kills you to see something like that happen. And yeah, look, any player who would have gone down in that moment, I'm sure the players would have had challenge getting back up, because in my experience watching footy, it goes one or two ways. The playing group just really can't shake it, and that's what we saw on the weekend, or they use it as motivation to turn things around, do it for Howie. So I guess it just shows where we're at as a footy club, but for such a senior figure to go down the way he did, Jacko, it really speaks volumes of how much we care about this bloke, and hope he rests up very well. Yeah,
well, first of all, shout out to Howie, Nico. I hope he's recovering well from what was a pretty serious knock. We were sat on the other side of the ground. You could hear the impact straight away, and not only was the impact of the initial collision, which was an accident, I was pretty displeased with a lot of Collingwood supporters electing to boo John Newcombe there. These things in footy happen, unfortunately, and then the first action from the contact with John Newcombe, and then the second action, of course, hitting the ground. It was quite sickening, and couldn't have happened to a worse bloke, in the sense that, from a spiritual sense, what Howie brings to this side, and obviously he was probably the biggest plus coming back into this team this week, and to lose him so early, if that bloody hole in the ball was just paid just before then, Nico, it wouldn't have happened. No, I'm only joking, but seriously, to talk about wind out of our sails, you could look back at that point in the game and say, we might not have ever won. Look, even if you did play, you feel like the performance we still put up, we probably still don't win this game. However, as Marcus highlighted, going into the Crows, we probably could have walked a lot taller. So, shout out to Howie, and hope he's going okay. Going to try and stick positive with the Pie that caught my eye this week, Nico. I'm going to go with Isaac Quainer. On a day where you could only really grab a fistful of players that could really lift their head up high and say that they played their role, I think Isaac really led from the front there, playing in a backline that looked in utter disarray, and obviously not helped by how quickly the ball was coming in there at stages on Thursday night, but was resolute once again, very rarely loses a one-on-one, and just looked really composed. When he did get his opportunity to kick the ball forward, he was measured. He still looked to take the game on. His skills were still on show, and look, again, I feel like I've said this on the pod before this year, but putting together a really nice season. It's such a shame that the other 4 to 5 blokes around him aren't doing the same, because with blokes like Isaac Quainer in your team, it can be really dangerous going the other way. But he was the one that, on a pretty dreary night on Thursday, Nico, I thought, could really hold his head up high.
He seems to be one of the few players out there at the moment that has some confidence about him. He's still flying up for marks, creating a contest at every possible opportunity, just trying to wheel the ball forward. Him and Bruz were clear standouts in that back line on Thursday night for that exact reason. They were the only ones, willing to actually get the ball moving, and just didn't seem to worried about the pressure that was surrounding them by Hawthorn, and I guess the pressure of the expectation that we actually needed to win on Thursday night. So yes, you're right. Credit to them, and I thought they were both exceptional. Yeah,
they were awesome.
Pido caught my eye. I'm going to cheat a bit, and I feel like after what we saw on Thursday night, I don't care. The most pleasing thing to come out of Thursday night was So even I'm muddling up. The most pleasing thing to come out of Thursday night, I think, was the demeanour of Craig McRae at the press conference. And I don't want to speak on behalf of all Collingwood fans, because I'm sure some will have differing opinions, and we'll hear some later on with the SpeakPie. But as wonderful and as measured as Fly has been for us since he came to the club, I think his presser encapsulated how we were all feeling as the game was unfolding. I didn't probably expect him to be as passionate and as emotional as he was during that actual conference, but I was just so glad to see that he, in some aspect, was feeling the way we were feeling, and the frustration has obviously flowed not just to us as a supporter group, but also to him, the coaching staff, and I'm sure he sort of communicated that to the players as well post-game as he did publicly. So I think that part is fantastic. I think we saw a change from Craig McRae, at least in the public and the media eye, and it was fantastic that he was able to put his feelings forward and say, no, this is not acceptable, and it was not an acceptable way to play the game. But the only way that I get complete satisfaction out of those comments is to see it translated into action. And it starts on Saturday night, and of course we know how massive that game's going to be, and I'm sure we'll touch on it at certain parts of the pod. But 4 quarters of no intensity, no effort, no ability to tackle, no want for the footy, no ability to help teammates out, no want to just say discipline to a system that had seen us perform so well in the early parts of the season. All of that was, I guess, more or less expressed in that press conference, and that's great. Now it's time for action. And I really do believe that this game will define whether we're a premiership contender or we're just going to be making up the numbers in the postseason. So I'm rapt that Fly delivered that to us, because I felt that in a way that he has calmed us in press conferences before, it has rolled us up in a positive spirit to how he performed and how he expressed himself on Thursday night. So that part's a tick, but now it's time to translate that into action. And if we don't do that, then why are we bothering this year?
Was there anything from the presser, either you, Nico, or Jack, that you heard that gave you a sense of, I guess, empathy through the voice of the coach to the fans, and I'm sure the broader footy club as well? Like, was there anything that you heard in particular, Nico, that was like, okay, that's identifying something really specific that we have not been doing well for several weeks, mind you, but now it's really only coming out in a press conference because these glitches now appear to be trends, and yeah, changing that in 1 week to me is going to require a huge effort. Not to be cynical, but I'm just curious if there's anything that anything specific.
Well, one thing that can change is a week is the effort and the intent and the intensity around the contest, and that was addressed, acknowledged quite significantly throughout the press conference. And to do it in a way that also acknowledges the fans and their frustration, I think really spoke to us as a supporter group to say, okay, he's understanding that we are feeling this way and he can also see it. So that's fantastic, and that's really what we wanted to see out of a coach, and to say that publicly and to address us as supporters, to apologise and to also outline how we might have been switching off in the third or fourth quarter. He knows that that's not what we want to see from this football club. So the effort can change in a short manner of time, which I think is what we're holding out hope for a little bit. And I think that's why I was so impressed by the way he still was able to act despite such a humiliating night.
Yeah, for sure. I was so impressed with Craig McRae's presser on the weekend, Nico. He's copped a lot of flack over the last month for perhaps being too positive, and you never know. We spoke about this bit in-game on Thursday night. Looking back to that Take the Steps documentary, I think we all got to look into what Fly looks like behind closed doors, and it's a lot more animated and a lot more probably berative than what you really think he is, certainly when he presents at a press conference. He's not that happy-go-lucky guy all the time, and he does have an ability to kick these blokes up the arse if they need it. However, in saying that, though, what we've seen over from him since the last month, when we've been sitting here looking at our system breaking down, having moments of lapses in effort across games and allowing sides to come back into the game, I would have loved to have seen this from Fly 2 or 3 weeks ago.
My point.
Feels like now, it feels just like we've left it too late. Now, again, I'm saying that having no idea how Fly presents inside the four walls, and he could be completely different. So he could have been giving them a kick up the bum for the last 3 weeks. Who knows? But the effort that we got on Thursday night was not representative of a group that was, anywhere near fired up for that contest whatsoever. And this is the thing that really frustrates me about Thursday. It's not like we still didn't have anything to play for. It's not like the Brisbane game shot our season to bits and the top spot still wasn't on the line, top four still wasn't on the line. It's not like we didn't come into this game, yes, losing Howe very early, but I felt like on paper we presented a really strong side that has won a lot of games of football so far this year. So to come into this game with no effort, and there's been commentary about, contract situations, which we'll get through at the end of this episode, I'm sure, Nico, that have been quashed sort of today, but there was no reason not to turn up on Thursday.
No.
Absolutely no reason whatsoever. So to dish out the sort of performance they did, coupled with the fact that our system, which has been breaking down for the last month, that's the result you're going to get every time. And it was just so disappointing. So while I absolutely back Craig McRae and his coaching staff to the hills and always will, and I couldn't be more happy that we've got a bloke like him steering the ship right now at this current period of our club's evolution. But I felt like, certainly from an outside looking in perspective, that we could have been asking ourselves these questions probably since the Gold Coast game, to be fair.
So, yes, all of that I 100% agree with. If you needed any more motivation, how about a bloke playing his 350th? I mean,
to go there, yeah.
The talk about and the promotion about Steele Sidebottom all week was brilliant, and it was fantastic to see him acknowledge the way he was. Do you know how depressing it was watching him getting chaired off the ground with the Hawthorn theme song blaring around the MCG after watching the last 4 quarters that we did? He didn't deserve that. And again, Fly, that too, and Fly acknowledged that as well in his presser to say that it was undeserving for what Steele has done for this football club for the best part of a decade and a half. I found that just so upsetting to witness, and it's just not how the night should have been.
No, it's not what he deserves. It's not what Steele's about, and for all of the Steele rhetoric that was probably being used by particularly Fly to try and enthuse the playing group, and I mean, just breaks your heart knowing that Howe would have been the person cheering him off instead of Bruz, all bar the injury to Jeremy on the night. Yeah, look, it just does make me feel like whatever was going on underneath the surface that we as fans don't see, or is not really encapsulated in any marketing material around the contracts and around the Silvani stuff, and just I just feel like there could not have been more motivation to come out and perform on that game. Yes, there was a 5-day break. Yes, we're an ageing list. Yes, it's getting to the back end of the season, but it just doesn't make sense, Jacko.
Not at all, and not even it's like the Brisbane game, and like even going back to that for a brief moment, we were having conversations with mates after Thursday night's game. We were just beaten by a better side on the night against Brisbane. We were top of the ladder going into that game. We're a bloody good side as well. We've proven that over this season. So the drop-off in system and the drop-off in effort, it just makes no sense. I cannot fathom it. I cannot understand it. It's fair enough you're not going to play your best footy from a system-based point of view. That's going to happen throughout a season. You're not always going to have games on your term. But to deliver that sort of insipid performance at this stage in the career, right across the park, and it wasn't just a handful of players that weren't any good and it really hurt us. 90% of this team didn't show up, didn't look after their teammates, weren't ready to buy in from a pressure sense, from a system sense. And when you look at this game and how much we had to play for, I could not be more disappointed as a supporter this week than to having sat the whole 4 quarters and not fire a shot in a game that we've been building up in a month, that we've been building up pretty much all season. As I said, it's just I feel like we're going to look back on this as one of the biggest squandered opportunities that AFL's seen in recent times.
And I've heard the 5-day break excuse already multiple times throughout the weekend. Yes, we're an older side, and I understand that. Well, A, Hawthorn 6-day break, interstate travel as well. B, we have come off shorter breaks in the past and have still delivered a much better effort than what we saw. Not even there wasn't even a 5 or 10 minute patch on Thursday that suggested to me that these guys were switched on and that we were into the contest. Not at all. It was from the moment the ball was bounced the first time to the final siren, it was just non-existent.
So if you're Jamie Elliott, if you're Brodie Myercheck, DC's come out and re-signed, I think, as of today, which is wonderful news, as has Pendles. But there's Will Hoskin-Elliott, there's Mason Cox. There's a long list of guys who haven't been signed up. Or maybe the deal is almost done and we don't know about it. But the only thing that makes sense to me is, despite this playing group being so connected and having played a lot of footy together and genuinely knowing that the premiership window is still open and this is going to be no better chance, I'm trying to find reasons why a drop-off in performance over the last 4 weeks can happen so consistently. And the only thing I can think of is blokes not knowing where they're playing their footy next year, and maybe there's been speculation that they are going to get that deal done.
Yeah, but that's not uncommon. Hey? That's happening all over the competition with different clubs, especially those that are also in the premiership window. Does it then take into account that we've already won a flag? A lot of the players in this team have already won a premiership. Is that hunger still there? This is what I brought up to you on Thursday.
Absolutely, that's a point. But surely, if they were, thinking about where they might be playing their footy next year, surely, who knows? The way that seasons unfold and when you go to teams and gelling and whatnot, it's rare air to be in the top 4 at this late in any season.
Yep. And
so it's rare air to, as I just said, it's rare air to be ahead as far as we were. Why wouldn't they, even if you didn't know where you're playing your footy next year, why wouldn't you want another premiership on your resume? Why wouldn't you be hungry to try and get one last one with this group, with a group that has made notes of being gel, being close, being connected? Why wouldn't you? Why couldn't you fire up for a game like this? Why can't you find a way to motivate yourself? I hear Marcus's point about the contract thing, and there's no doubt that it causes unsettlement, but I still don't see that as an excuse not to try and fire yourselves up for this game and for the rest of the season, because an AFL premiership looks good on everyone's resume. And if you're someone like a Brodie Myercheck or a Jamie Elliott or a Mason Cox or the players that we've just mentioned, going over to a Melbourne or a Gold Coast or someone like that, which has been the rumours for these blokes, with 2 flags under your belt, get you another 150 grand at least a year. So I can't understand why these blokes wouldn't be putting in the effort. And not saying that Checkers and Jamie Elliott were the real standouts in terms of low effort effort on Thursday night. But yeah, if I just don't see this contract talk and this Jack Silvani talk as a good enough excuse for why there's been such a drop off.
I don't buy it either. But like Marcus said, there's nothing else sticking out to me to suggest there's another reason.
Unless we're gassed. Unless we're gassed.
That's the other one.
That's the only other thing I can think of.
So I revert back to Darcy Moore's comments a couple of weeks ago about training loads. We're training 4 days this week before we go to Adelaide on Saturday.
Break, yep.
Again, this is a replica of what happened 2 years ago and we went on to win a flag. What's the difference this time? I don't know.
But the difference is
a bit older, but yeah.
But we've spoken all year about this management piece, right?
Yeah.
And I just said to Nico a little bit off air was we go into this game having looked at our management, look at the players that we put out on the park on Thursday, and from a management sense, you've got to say it's perfect. So then you go back and strip it back. Who are we resting and at what times? Blokes like Pat Lipinski were getting rested when they were the number one player in their position after that Carlton game. Number one player for kicks inside 50, and he got rested going into the Gold Coast game.
So we're told.
26 years old.
So we're told.
Yeah, exactly. 26 years old, right? Why is he getting rested? How good's Pat Lipinski's footy been since he's come back against Gold Coast? His form's been absolutely stunted. So you could go back and look at about 3 or 4 more examples of that over the course of the season, coupled then with a slow lack of system. As I said before, I'm going to sound like a broken record now, Nico. It was just the perfect storm on Thursday night.
Yeah, there was just too many factors. And there's so many factors that we could dissect in this game. But again, we'd be here for hours. There's only one major point that I want to discuss with you, gents, before we do move on. And that is the back line. We gave him a bit of slack over the last couple of weeks because we lost some personnel and they were having to carry him a lot more of a load, and we were understanding of that while also being, I believe, fairly critical of it. Put a lot of onus on the midfield, who were still just as poor anyway on Thursday night, just could not win a clearance to save their lives. But I felt like we had a lot more control of our destiny in the defensive half on Thursday night than we have had in previous games. And I know that the Jeremy Howe incident, I'm sure, is going to be brought up a lot in this discussion. But to see just the lack of confidence from Darcy Moore, from Dan Houston, from Billy Frampton, those three in particular, all having very, very poor nights, unfortunately coincided with a really poor loss. Now, these are not 3 guys I'm pinning the entire loss on from last week, but they do set an example of how things are going in your club. And when you see those 3 perform so poorly and set the tone with some really ordinary mistakes to start, well, it's very hard to recover from that, regardless of whether Jeremy Howe goes down or not.
Yeah, and I think, again, the midfield did them no favours once we dropped our heads in terms of how fast the ball was coming in that second term. They kicked 6 goals in a row or something like that to take us to half-time. But it was, again, just something that I think the Jeremy Howe factor massively played into. Darcy Moore tapping the ball to Nick Watson in the first term, allowing him to run into an open goal. Billy Frampton just handballing the ball onto the ground and hoping someone will clean up his mess on several occasions. Like, his confidence, he just completely lost his mind out there. Didn't even look like he, I'm not going to say he didn't want to be out there, but he was just chasing the bloke in front of him, not really looking at what was happening around. Dan Houston hitting switch kicks and turning it over.
Kicking off one step.
Yeah, not anywhere near the calibre of the player that we thought we were going to get, and I'd say he's actually regressed this season, unfortunately, and this game brought it to light off the back of a really poor game last week where the frustration boiled over, Nico. But yeah, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that Howie going down was the difference between how those guys performed, but I just felt like he was integral to ensuring someone like a Billy Frampton felt organised and connected with the defensive unit, because Darcy Moore's not doing that. He's not being vocal and he's not coming to the cover of other defenders.
Yep.
But when we see guys like Lloyd Meek marking twice in one quarter, I think it was, on the line, like, it's the cardinal sin in footy, and I think that's just another signal of how little voice there is and just how guys aren't putting bodies on and doing the things that you expect for a system defence to work.
The amount of space they were giving up, and it wasn't just Darcy Moore isolated this time. It was Billy Frampton. It was others. We were relying on Jack Crisp and Paddy Lipinski to be the last line of defence to spoil
in there at one point.
Lloyd Meek. I mean, it's absurd, and it's not something that you would expect to see in a system that, like I said earlier in the pod, has gotten us to such great heights this season alone. I don't understand.
And when we talk about system and next man up, I feel like that works when you've got 1 or 2 guys being changed over each week, but you've got your core group and then you've got your ring around them that are playing each week. And I guess it brings into question when we look back at the end of the season to one of your points, Jacko, about the management piece, whether we've got Too Cute, which we've named a few times this season already, and has that management approach. I mean, for guys like Pendles and Steele, like, fair enough, they're veterans and they need that. But for the other guys that have maybe lost that continuity into their own game and therefore being able to connect with other teammates, like, have we lost the plot there this far in the season?
Especially when you consider the backline, which a lot of when they're looking good and performing well, it's all muscle memory. It's all you're not being called into any contest. It's all just, righto, this is my job, I'm going to go do it now. And we've seen this Collingwood side do it time and time again. So when you do take blokes out of that side throughout certain stages of the season, there's no doubt there's a continuity issue as well there. I mean, the backline obviously had holes going everywhere on Thursday night, Nico, but for mine, it was the breakdown in the middle once again before we move off this game. I just thought I thought we got a lot of things wrong, not only from a clearance sense, we were ball watching, getting sucked to the contest, allowing numbers out the back, much like we did against Brisbane. But there was 2 occasions, or more than 2 occasions, but twice that I really noticed it, with contests out on the wing being thrown in, which is where you want Tom Mitchell, Ned Long, Jordan De Goey, these hard inside midfielders that are high quality inside midfielders that have been all year for us, and they're standing 150 metres away off the ball ready to get the switch kick to 2 blokes, let's not sugarcoat it, Tom Mitchell and Ned Long, who aren't noted for their kicking in AFL footy, might I just add. So they should be at the toes of Darcy Cameron, getting ready to grab that ball, hand it out to the blokes running past, and they're not even in the frame. Like, what is that? That's just one of the most basic coaching/system errors you could see ever in football. When you've got 2 of your best hard-nosed midfielders, it's what they're in the side to do, and they're playing winger role,
says to me they've given up.
Back. So,
says to me they've given up.
Which either means one of 2 things, Nico. Yeah, they've given up and they don't want to get near the ball, Ned Long and Tom Mitchell, or I've even just forgot. That's how well we're going. I had 2 things loaded up there, Nico, and I've forgotten. Or it's just the other thing was we don't have the confidence in Ned Long or Tom Mitchell at the moment. Ned Long played 80% of the game or 90% of the game after coming on for Jeremy Howe.
Yeah.
There's no reason why he couldn't have at least accumulated 15 to 20 touches for the game.
He was playing forward when he came on. When he first came on. I'm not sure why, if there was positional changes that played due to losing a defender, but he seemed to really struggle to get into the game because I don't think he was expecting to be on that early. But I agree with your point, and I think guys like De Goey and Mitchell, we're seeing a mix of effort and intent not being at the level across the team, but these guys have been so underdone all year. They've been fighting just to get match fit since pre-season, really. Like, they've had their setbacks, and I think unfortunately that stoppage clearance game where we got murdered again, it just would have been better to see them at the source rather than trying to get on the outside.
Where was Ned Long's best footy played this year, Nico? Yeah. Where was he? What was he? Was he blazing away from packs kicking goals? No, he wasn't. He was in there hard and under, beating blokes to the footy, not getting tackled. And then we know that Tom Mitchell, his comeback game against Carlton, he spent all day just handballing out to blokes running past, and he looked vintage Tom Mitchell. So why that was a thing on Thursday night, that's one of these big ones that I just cannot wrap my head around, amongst other things.
No, it's a fantastic point you make, and it was another frustrating part of Thursday night. So we know that the personnel is not going to change much coming into Saturday. Is the effort improving alone going to change things this weekend, or does something else need to be done to ensure that we are putting up a competitive effort against this Adelaide side?
The only way I see us winning this game is by leaning into how many times we've done a back against the wall interstate job when it just looks like we shouldn't. Honestly, I'm not sure who or how or like what's going to transpire, but it's just Collingwood pulls it out of their ass vibe that I'm going with that sees us win this game. I'm not going to give you anything else, honestly.
It's exactly my point as well, Nico. I mean, you've got no rhyme or reason as to why we feel like we could go over to the Adelaide Oval and pinch this one. There's no form to speak of. There's no effort to speak of in the last month that we've seen that is good enough to beat this current Adelaide side over there, other than the fact that we've seen Collingwood do it time and time again. West Coast 2019, the Collingwood 2022 under Craig McRae. Well, when was the last time we lost at the Adelaide Oval? I couldn't
I don't know.
tell you that. It's been a happy hunting ground for us. So maybe that's something to hold on to, Nico. We're home away from home, the Adelaide Oval. We might go over there and get the job done. But yeah, seriously, something the thing is, though, we say this, but we've been saying this the last month. We've been rocking up to the MCG for the last month going, when are we going to get this response? When are we going to get this response? When are we going to get this response?
Yep.
I mean, does that mean all of a sudden we go over to Adelaide and when we really are given no chance that's finally when we're going to get it?
Shouldn't come to that, though, surely.
It shouldn't.
No.
It's so frustrating.
No. Not if you have a next man up mentality, not if you have a system that's clicking, but yeah, Bobby and Billy are two names I'm sure, Bobby and Bo, two names that I'm sure will welcome back.
10-goal win confirmed. All right, let's get your votes then from Thursday night. Very intrigued about where we went this time.
Yeah, look, it was hard. I'll start with that. I've gone one vote to Bruz. I've gone 2 votes. Have I got 2 votes? Can I get 2 votes?
It just stops at 1.
No. Look,
Everyone gets 1.
It was a bit like that, honestly. Like, I find these games really hard to allocate a 3-2-1. I think Q was our best. I think Bruz and maybe a shooter were in the mix for a 2 and a 1. But I'm struggling.
And we can move past the Brownlow tracker segment, I think, very quickly.
Going to pieces, unfortunately.
Yes. Jack?
So much like Marcus, I also feel the fact these games are so impossible to hand out votes. So I've come up with a foolproof system. I've given 5 blokes and I've put them on a wheel, Nico, and I will currently live on the pod decide my 3-2-1. So I've got on the wheel for those watching at home, I've got Shooter, Bruz, DC, Tim Membry, who I thought, again, just as he has all season, really
had a crack.
tried his bum off. Harry Perryman is much like Isaac Quainer, just down there doing his role, and Isaac Quainer. So without further ado, Nico, the person who gets my 1 vote is...
We need just a bit of music just to...
Harry Perryman, so he gets my 1 vote.
Yeah. This is good.
Number 2 goes to Harry Perryman. So we will keep going with that. These are the risks you take when you do these sort of things off the cuff. Isaac Quainer gets my 2, and the 3 votes goes to DC, and that probably goes for signing a contract earlier on this morning.
For 3 years.
There you go. Yeah, which on the topic, Nico, we might touch on it a little bit later, but the really good signs in a really otherwise dismal period of our season, and feels like everything's sort of imploding. It's really nice to see a bloke who's been so important to us this year turn down big money to go back home and stay loyal to the Collingwood Footy Club. Hats off to him.
Nah, fantastic. Very good news to wake up to on Monday this morning.
Did you think he was going to sign?
I didn't actually.
I thought it was gone.
Yeah, the last fortnight I started to get pretty worried about what he was going to do, and I almost wouldn't have blamed him if he did decide to move on. But he is just such a wonderful character to this group, to this playing group, and I think it would have been a big hole to fill, more off-field than on-field, if we had have lost him. But the way he's been playing his footy, he definitely deserved a pretty good contract, and I'm glad that the Pies going to the party for that. So wrap for that. I don't know. Quainer gets the 3, Bruzzy gets the 2. I'll give DC 1 just for the sake of it. All right, let's get the cans on. It's time for SpeakPie. Now, I need to preface by saying thank you. Thank you to everyone that did send them in. We got an extraordinary amount of voice messages coming in from SpeakPie. So thank you to everyone that did send them through. There were just too many to play, so we've tried to cut it down. And keep in mind as well that Lukey put out the post halfway through the 3rd quarter. So you are going to get some very raw reactions to how things are going. And I'm sure...
Live reactions.
Well, very live. And I'm sure if some people slept on it and worked out what they said the next morning, they might have a different view. But that's what the fun is for SpeakPie. So thank you to everyone that did send it in. Like I said, we got a heap. I'm going to try to get through as many as I possibly can, but we did have to cut it down just because we'd be here all day. We are going to start with Jake. This is a real 10-second one here, so let's get started. Thank you, Jake.
We're just broken. Simple as that. Broken. Year's over. On to next season. See you later, boys.
So, just warning, there's going to be a bit of that. David Broadbent, thank you.
Well, Pies Nation, don't know how this is going to work. It's 5 minutes into the last quarter, and I'm on bookings.com because my September has suddenly got a lot more weeks free. That's just beyond words, Pies.
Yep. Simple as that. Bit of a longer one here from Nick, so thank you.
Straight inside 50.
Pies Nation, boys.
Still here on the TV.
It's Nico here, mate. Last week when I left an audio message with you guys kindly put on your podcast. I try to desperately be measured in my feedback and my thoughts. This week, I'm not going to be measured. This is an absolute fucking disgrace. You've got a club champion playing a milestone game, and literally your spiritual leader has been knocked out in the first 2 minutes of the game, and you're telling me you can't lift as a team to show at least some effort and passion and respect for these guys. It's just shocking and embarrassing, and honestly, I'm not even going to start on the defence. There's no point. That's been done to death. The midfield has a lot to answer for. Everything, the whole club at the moment has a lot to answer for.
Yeah,
Bang.
Well said.
Brutal.
Well said.
But hasn't said anything wrong there, has he?
No, not at all. I think it's nice to have commentary from the people on SpeakPie where they can address a measured response to a poor performance, but then also change tack, as I think we have this week as well.
Exactly right.
Feelings are exactly the same, Nico. I think you were sitting with me on Thursday night and we were angry, we were seething. But this also now going into the rest of this season just highlights how lucky we are to have someone like a Craig McRae at the helm, because we're not still talking about what are the coaching staff doing, what is this, because they're speaking our language. So he realises what we all realise, and now we can sort of maybe with holding on to some hope. I don't know where I'm getting it from, but holding on to some hope that we can salvage something from this year.
Absolutely. All right, let's keep going. This is Julia, a very short one as well. Thank you.
Teams should not rely on a single player, but this game ended when Howe went down in that first minute. Not good enough, Pies. Just not good enough.
Again, there's a few of that sentiment as well about Howie. This is one from Josh. Thank you very much.
What the fuck have I just witnessed? Like, what the fuck is this, man? We were doing so well, and now we're just fucking dropping. Like, your boys are great, you know, your pod's great, you guys been very optimistic, and you haven't panicked just yet, but I think you guys gotta say we're fucking cooked at the moment. Like, this is not good enough. And
sorry,
mate, Fly's been great and he's a nice guy, but he needs to start giving it to these boys seriously. It's not good enough, and Fly needs to look at himself and start thinking he needs to make some changes. I don't know what changes you can make at this stage, but they need to be made. It's gonna be one hell of a pod. Can't wait to hear it.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, boys.
It's got that famous Terry Wallace quote written all over it, Nico. All the Collingwood supporters, if I see another bloke get a pat on the back for a good job, I'll spew up. So I feel like there was a bit of that to hearing it from the Collingwood supporters on Thursday.
Chica, this is the next one.
It's my fault. It's my fault. I still have Guinness badge on my Collingwood scarf, so it's my fault. Sorry, guys.
You know, we said during the game, at least Giddy hasn't touched us up, and then we looked at the stat sheet. He had more touches than Dacos.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It was desperately trying to get himself on the end of one in that last quarter, Jack. But yeah, you can't just get easy at the back goals all the time.
Exactly right. Cheds is next. Thank you. Another short one.
Hey, it's Cheds from Greenvale. I called in last week about why the hell are we playing Dean. I'm calling in this week to say, where the hell was Dean? I don't know what to say anymore.
I reckon Charlie Dean would have had a better game on Thursday night than some of those defenders, because at least he makes an effort. The one thing you couldn't fault him for in the weeks that he's had to fill into the senior side is that he made an effort every single time, and that he didn't let his opponents be 10, 15 metres in front of him. That's what you could hold your head up high. The talent's not there, but at least he gave something each time. Disagree? No?
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a futile argument at this point in the pod. But yes, I think that Charlie Dean staying in the twos this week is my preference.
And we want to be sitting here as one of the other callers called up, Nico. We want to sit here and be like, Fly needs to make some changes. Who do we bring in? Like, we don't have really anyone waiting in these wings apart from Bo and Bobby, who will still have to move the pieces around to get into this side. So, panic stations.
Jason's next. Thank you, Jason.
It's 4 minutes and 13 into the last quarter, and I'll tell you what, we are I don't know what to say. Really, I do not know what to say. Our backs, no good. Our midfield, no good. Our forwards are no good. If we can't take marks in the forward 50, we're not going to win the game. Frampton, well, Jesus, he's not the answer either. I really do not know what the go is.
Okay, yeah, that was Jason.
I can appreciate why the game's still going, why that would feel like an appropriate thing to single out, because his performance he imploded on the ground. It was a sight to behold, but he wasn't alone. But who have we got next, Nico?
Aaron's next. Thank you.
Well, at this rate, my kids' under 10 team would beat us. I'm not sure what the record is for missed handballs, but we'll be right up there. And, stick a fork in me, boys. I'm done.
Real positive and upbeat there.
Wow.
Aaron. Brett is next.
The hubris and arrogance to rest players in the last 5 or 6 weeks is an absolute disgrace that has led to the most insipid performance of the Collingwood Football Club since 2021. The coach and high-performance team got way ahead of themselves. We only had to win one more game, but no, we decided to cash our chips in early. Fly has a lot to answer for.
He answered for it.
Obviously this was prior, but yes. It's just curious just to listen to how these guys are going. We're going to keep going. Jimmy's next.
She's pretty poor. But we'll beat Adelaide. So we'll be right.
Just echoing our sentiments from earlier.
Gee, it's got that feel about it though.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
Look out.
Bruce for 4 seconds here.
At least we got 2023.
There's another way if you want to look at it. There's a few more here to wrap up. Next, we've got, where was it? I think it was Josh. That was next. Thank you, Josh.
Boys, Josh here from Queensland. Morning after that, whatever that was last night, to say the least. Really thought we were going to bounce back after last week, but apparently not. Not even angry about it, just disappointed. Disappointed in that shit that we brought today. So, yeah, cool. Bye.
Now, Ahmed's next. He sent one as the game was still going and then sent one 2 days later. So I'm going to play the one that he sent. This is really good.
Time to process.
I'm going to play the one that he sent during the game, and then I'm going to play a little bit of the one that he said after. So thank you, Ahmed. He's been great.
G'day, boys. I am devastated. Genuinely rocked to my core because of what the fuck has gone on to my footy club. It has been such a fall from grace from that 10 fucking points clear on top of the ladder to where we are now. Our system, our defence, our midfielders, the lack of intent on the field has been the main issue for me. Attack the footy. Where is this pressure? What's our DNA anymore? I'm really hoping that during this week, Fly really, really stresses the importance of why we put on the jumper. Go to Vic Park. Go relearn that shit, because it doesn't seem like anyone wants to play on this field anymore. I'm so dramatic, I know that. I do. But I don't know if there's enough weeks now to pick up the fallen pieces of our system, our defence and our midfield and our attack and our lack of pressure and our lack of intent, glue it all together and wing it to a premiership. The other sides are just too good for that. I'm fucking devastated at what the year could have been and what it was looking like after round 17, 10 points on top of the ladder. What do we need to do? Some of the takes on Twitter and Instagram are very dramatic. Sack a fly, start the rebuild. Everyone just fucking relax. We've got the system. But how do we get it back?
So that was that, and then he sent this one a little bit later.
G'day, boys. Very highly emotional after that game. I literally felt like I was waking up devastated after a prelim loss. But the dust has settled. Came off a 5-day break against a bogey side. Lost Howe early. The team was rattled, it seemed. I don't know. Is it an excuse? Yes. But I feel like we can cut the team some slack there. We've got 8 days to turn this shit around, to find our system again, to hold ourselves to better standards on field. Undoubtedly, a few of the boys are listening to this pod, so I hope you're tuning in now. 8 days to turn this season around. Put the mouthguards in. Head to Vic Park. Remember why you play for this fucking footy club. Fire the fuck up.
I love how we still doubled down on the Vic Park mouthguards.
I'm so here for that.
I'm so am I. That was so well said. You feel like the players do need a reminder, Nico, of how privileged they are to pull on the Collingwood jumper, and also how privileged they are to be in a position that they are. So for God's sake, fire up.
All right, 2 more to finish. This is Adele. He made the point last week that we were not taking last week unseriously, but that we were playing towards finals. I think you might remember, but another measured opinion here from him. So thank you very much.
Hi guys, thought I'd sleep on it this time. The midfield needs a bit of work. I'll leave that to smarter minds than myself to work out. But I was actually thinking, we don't look the side that we were previously, and I think we're just 1 or 2 small forwards short. I mean, we haven't had the full complement of Hill, McCreery and Shooter for the entire season, but we've always had someone to fill the role. And Lockie Sullivan, maybe we didn't appreciate him as much as we should have been, but he was doing it. So we at least had 2 of them. Our current forward line, that ball is just waltzing out so easily. It's very un-Collingwood-like. So I'm keeping the faith. I think they can turn this around. Keep the faith, everyone. We'll be fine.
Different perspective.
Like we've slotted that in second last, just kind of getting over the hump of all of the...
There's a reason for that.
Outbursts, Nico, and just trying to land the plane. So I like that from Adele.
That's why I'm finishing with Irvin, because we always know that he likes a nice, calm, measured approach. So he's the last one. So thank you.
Hey, boys. Well, as you know, I always try to maintain a somewhat level-headed demeanor, no matter what the result. So I'd say the less said about that game, the better, because outside of maybe the nice Lockie Schultz run-down tackle and maybe Bruzzy taking on a couple of defenders down the middle, there was really nothing redeeming about that game at all. So I'm just going to not talk about it and instead focus on the season as a whole. I mean, before this season, we were discounted as a team that was too old and too slow to compete. And after opening round, it looked like that was true. But then we spent the next 3 or so months really putting that narrative to bed with some great footy. But unfortunately, that narrative has snuck back up on us recently and at the worst possible time. However, you guys remember, the Lions lost to the Suns by 10 goals a couple of weeks ago, and then last week they came to the MCG and did what they did. So, as hard as it is to visualize, a week is a really long time in footy. And maybe there's still some of what made us go 10 points clear at the top still left in the tank somewhere. But I bloody hope we hurry up and find it. Come on, Pies. Give us some hope.
And breathe. And calm. That's what he does. That's what Irvin
Get him
does.
down there. Get him to the HI. What is it called these days?
AIA.
There's a bit of that this week.
There's a bit of that going on.
But,
delayed.
Well, there actually is for Howie. Unfortunately.
Might be a bit of HIA going on for me, Nico, after this podcast. But yeah, no, it's well said from Irving. It's, you feel like level heads have prevailed, and I like his point about the less said about this game, the better. Again, we said this after Thursday. This game's far more about us than it is about Hawthorn. So let's have a look at the mirror. Let's get ourselves up and let's go have a historic Collingwood win on the road on Saturday night, Nico.
You can start to feel it now the more you talk about it, can't you? So thank you, everybody that sent that in. Again, we got so many, and we do appreciate it. Couldn't fit it all in, but I think that was a good sort of taste of what sort of...
good spread.
Our fans were feeling throughout the initial parts of the game, but also a little bit afterwards too. So that's fantastic. All right, we got to guess the crowd now. No guess the margin, obviously. 60-odd thousand, I think we ended up having, I believe. So somewhere along those lines for the crowd. Wasn't a huge one. Hawthorn home game, though, so pretty standard there.
Thursday night, bit of a tricky time slot to get to for a lot, Nico. And I think had this game been on a Friday, you probably would have seen at least 20,000.
68 and a half.
More. So,
Fantastic.
No one down the level 4 end down the opposite with the punt road end, which is usually one that fills up quite quickly. So
yes, you are.
Yeah.
Very quiet. We're going to chat to Kane.
Corns.
Wow. It's not spelt the right way, so I'm going to go and say it's not Cornsy. Although that would be a very...
What's the right way?
Yeah. Oh, true. Every way's different. Yes. Apologies if I've... Oh, no.
Well, Kane Corns is never right for me. That's all I'm trying to say.
Oh, in terms of Kane, right. That would be an interesting chat if you just came on the line all of a sudden. Maybe I need to get to work.
He loves a microphone.
I'd leave.
Imagine he just guessed it one day. He just came in one day and was like... Anyway, all right, let's get to Kane then. So here's our next one for Guess the Crowd, so well done. We'll have a chat. If it rings. There we go.
Hello, Kane speaking.
G'day, Kane. It's Nicholas from Pies Nation. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Going well, thanks. Well done for being our Guess the Crowd competition winner for this week's episode. An unfortunate game for you to get the crowd right this week, but it is what it is, and we'll move through it. We'll get your thoughts on it in a moment, but we always like to ask everyone that does win our competition what the method is. What did you feel like you had to... What numbers did you put in to try and get closer to the crowd this week?
Well, I thought everyone had put 70s or low 70s. I thought... Being a Thursday night, I don't think there'll be too many people heading to the G. And then the last three numbers are just pick the Dacos brothers, 7 and 35, and can't go wrong.
Exactly right. Well, there was a lot of steel in the comments I did notice because of the milestone, of course. But well done to you, Kane, for getting closest. Now, I don't know if you were one of the ones that did make their way to the G on Thursday night, but it still stings knowing that was the effort that we put up. How did you make Thursday night a few days on?
Well, I've tried to put it as far back in my memory, being Thursday night, being a couple of days away. But just found we just looked slow. I mean, I can't fault Hawthorn's effort. They were moving the ball like they were absolutely awesome.
Kane, just Jack here, mate. Thanks so much for taking the time to come on to the pod in what is otherwise has been a really horrible week for Collingwood supporters right around the country, so thank you. But if you're Craven Cray this week, you've got the reins, you get to fire up the boys. What's the message? What are we going over to Adelaide? What do we need to... What's the first... There's a lot of things. What's the first thing, first and foremost, that we need to get right to try and salvage something from the rest of this year?
Well, I think they don't need any rev. I think they know... Not so much the season's on the line, but they know what they got to do to keep that top 4 spot and just really have a crack this week after the last 4 weeks of pretty dismal efforts, bar the one against Richmond, really.
Kane, is there a particular leader at the club that you think isn't pulling their weight at the moment? We obviously know that the captain has been under the spotlight, but is there anyone in particular that you think really needs to go to the Adelaide game and fly the flag so that we can indeed somehow walk away with the 4 points?
Well, obviously, Darcy Moore this week, he's had a rough last couple of weeks without his sidekicks, but I think he needs to fire this week against some tall timbers down there in the Adelaide forward line. I don't know if still made it through his HIA on the weekend, but if he's not playing, it might help us out a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I know there was talks about a potential delayed concussion for Phil Thorpe after copying a hit yesterday in the Eagles game, so we'll have to...
obviously doesn't help with how we're doing the same thing, so...
Well, exactly right. It's, I guess, one on each end, unfortunately, isn't it? So, with this Crows game, I mean, look, it's billed as one of the most important games for our season. I feel like we've been saying that for about 3 weeks now, but that's where it's come to at the moment. We know the Crows are a great side, but we've got their measure in terms of the head-to-head. We've had a pretty good record at the Adelaide Oval in recent years as well, but... What do you feel like is the one key aspect you would like to see us get right this week in terms of giving us the best chance to beat the Crows? Is it as simple as effort and intent?
Well, I think just the handball game. I think we looked slow last Thursday, and then even against Brisbane, couldn't get the handball chain going, coming out of the fence and moving quick. I think starting to rely on the boundary line too much and not coming through the middle as much as we should, and moving quick chaos football. We just look slow, get to 70-odd metres out and just kick it long, and hopefully someone takes a mark, and especially with no Bobby Hill or Bro McCreary grabbing the ball off the ground. It just looks slow.
So on that point, Kane, do you think that we need to make any positional changes to start Saturday's clash, something a little bit different?
Oh, I don't know. It could start Nick down forward and hopefully get a bit of pace in the forward line, and yeah, I'm not too sure. It's a good question, that one.
Yeah, well, that's what we're here for. No, I'm kidding. No, that's exactly right. There's just so many, I guess, questions that we still need answered, Kane, so it's going to be hard. But before we do let you go, last one from us. Do you have the faith? Do you think we can turn it around, or is it too little too late for us to try and salvage something?
Oh, that's the thing. I've always got faith. I've had faith all this year and faith all last year, and we did it in 23. The record speaks for itself. The last six games we didn't track too well, and then hit the finals firing. So I think there's well within a chance, and the boys know what they've got to play for now, and it's up to them.
Well, we know what they've got to play for. Let's hope they do when they get on there on Saturday night. But Kane, it's been great to have you as part of the pod, mate. Been great to get your insights, and hopefully we do get back on track and we can celebrate some wins in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks, gents.
Thanks, Kane.
Thank you, Kane.
That was Kane joining us as part of the Guess the Crowd. That could be you if you are the closest to the pin. So keep an eye out for Lukey's post on each game day. Give it your best shot. And if you are closest to the official crowd, that will be you joining us for an episode of the Pies Nation podcast, thanks to our Guess the Crowd competition. Pretty well spoken from Kane.
I like the point about not changing the angles enough. And it did just, as Kane was speaking, appear that without Bobby and without Bo and some of these speedy forwards that we rely to kick it forward and take it off the ground and get to the drop, maybe that's why we've been going so wide and slow. But whatever's been happening, Nico, we'll absolutely need to turn it around, because I know the type of footy the Crows like to play, and they will be going through the corridor.
Oh, so yes, absolutely.
Got to match them.
Making the most of it for sure. So no VFL this week. We had the bye, and then we've got the final round of the home and away season this weekend. A big game against Port Melbourne. I say big game because we are currently in 6th position, and it's a top 6 in the VFL, and then 7 to 10 is the wild card. So we need to win to make sure that we do stay in the top 6. But also our percentage isn't much higher than Richmond, who are on the same points, and they've got a big game as well against Williamstown, who need to win also. So a lot happening in the last round of the VFL, but it'll be good to see some players on the fringe get some game time this week, I think, particularly with the Adelaide game.
Yeah, and great for the Surge to have a week off as well, of course.
Deserves it.
2:05 at ETU Stadium, so I believe it's Port Melbourne's home ground.
Yes.
On Saturday for anyone who needs their local fix of Collingwood footy.
Fantastic. And the VFLW girls, a monster win for them. They defeated North Melbourne Werribee, who were on top of the ladder and had won 8 consecutive games coming into the finals. They got the job done in the qualifying final, so they ended their streak, and they're now beaten the Roos twice this year, and they've only lost 3 games, North Melbourne, so it's a mighty effort from the VFLW girls.
Reigning premiers.
Yes, so they've moved on to the semi-final, and it's a big game for them there, so for some reason, not playing at home, which is a bit disappointing. They're also at ETU Stadium. So they're before the VFL game. The VFLW will play their semi-final. They take on the Box Hill Hawks, who finished in third spot.
Forgive me if I don't know how the finals works in the women's, but they've won a qualifying and now they move to a semi. Is that right?
So there's 2 semis, and I believe if they win this game, they go straight to the grand final.
And
then if they lose, they'll get the second chance and go to a prelim. So
cool.
Yeah, so all the best, because they've been putting in some fantastic games this year to VFLW girls, and we're looking forward to seeing them run out and hopefully get themselves into a grand final. And then the AFLW starts this Thursday night, so lots of Pies action for us. We take on Carlton, as we usually do to start the season, over at Icon Park. It's a new team, new skipper, so really looking forward to seeing what the Pies can do, and hopefully they can start the year off by beating the Blues and getting a really nice win to top it off as well. So all happening, lots of Collingwood action, and whilst all those games are very important, I think a lot of attention will be turned to Saturday night. We take on the Crows. Adelaide Oval, gee, I don't know how to feel. It's really nervous. You feel like it can only really go in one or two ways. It's a miracle win and we celebrate it long and hard, or we get absolutely pumped.
Or a draw.
Wow. What would a draw do? What would a draw do?
Oh, my God. My hair will be in blotches, Nico, if there's a draw
Not ready
on
for that.
Saturday night. I'm not mentally prepared for a freaking draw. But you're right. You feel like it's going to go one way or the other. You feel like we're probably just going to dish up what we have been in the last month and get absolutely pants by an absolute powerhouse in the competition. Watched that game yesterday against the West Coast Eagles, hoping that they would drop that.
Looks all right for 3 quarters.
But then, as good mature sides do, they found a way, and their stars well and truly stood up in the last quarter, and they looked every bit the mature winners on Sunday afternoon. So yeah, they'll be charged up, ready to go. Everyone usually is charged up against us, but at home against the Pies, there is scary prospects. But this has got a Collingwood famous victory written all over it. I cannot believe those words have just fallen out of my mouth. But
well, this is where we are. This is what we have to accept, unfortunately.
We're sick. You have to be sick at these times.
We will have a preview of the Crows game coming for you later this week, but that will do it for this week's episode. Hopefully you all feel a bit calm and we're ready to go to see what the final fortnight's going to dish up for us. Marcus, Jack, thank you, boys.
Thank you, boys.
Thanks for having me, boys.
And until next week, I've been Nicholas Sacco. You've been listening to or watching the Pies Nation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. Our show wouldn't be possible in 2025 without the ongoing support of the North Texas Devils. They're led by a great Collingwood man in Peter Wood. And just like the Pies have been here, the North Texas Devils have been thriving over in the US, just coming off a Central Regional Championship. And now they're looking to go all the way in the Nationals in Arizona later this year. The Devils are still looking to recruit new and established players for the season, so if any of our listeners or viewers are heading to the States over the next couple of months, are keen to get their Aussie rules fixed, the North Texas Devils are the team for you. Contact details can be found in our description, no matter how you consume our podcast, or you can head to ntxdevils.com to learn more. So thanks again to the Devils for sponsoring the Pies Nation podcast in 2025.